Hi, I'm Dr. Cyraina Johnson-Roullier, and I'm a professor of modern literature and literature of the Americas at the University of Notre Dame. And I've been working throughout the academic year 2020-21 with CPS Lives as its first author artist in residence to bring a group of students from Chicago and New York City together for a dialogue on their pandemic experiences. Thank you so much for watching.
After a horribly bloody civil war, the scars of which still mark this country, President Abraham Lincoln stood at a podium very much like this one to try and invite the battle-worn sides to consider the novelty and enormity of what the U.S. was trying to accomplish. A government of, for, and by the people. As we try to live up to the vision that Lincoln described facing challenges he could not have imagined, the podium is a placeholder. We await the voice that can articulate a vision compelling enough to unify a starkly divided country and world. In any country, division is the rule and not the exception. And the ways in which those divisions are framed, understood, and navigated is what allows for the continuation of national identity. This podium is a replica of the one used by Lincoln to deliver the Gettysburg Address. It is made from salvaged parts of Chicago public school furniture collected from the mass school closings that happened in Chicago in 2013. The top piece is made from a chair that was put into service for CPS in 1954, the year the Supreme Court lawfully desegregated the public schools in Brown versus Board of Ed.
I'm going to read from the Bliss copy of Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. During this last academic year, 2020-21, I worked with a very dedicated group of students from Chicago and New York, two of the cities across America that have been hardest hit by COVID-19, racial injustice, police brutality, and the multiple inequalities revealed by the pandemic. The workshop was called, quote, "Getting in the Way," unquote, making sense of COVID-19, racial injustice, and humanity in Chicago and New York City. Following the urging of the late Congressman John Lewis, who said we all should, quote, get in trouble, necessary trouble, unquote, or, quote, get in the way, unquote, we worked hard to discover how the students would contribute to the unfinished work of our country, mentioned in Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. Through intensive dialogue centered on individual experience of these and other difficult issues faced by the world over the last 18 months, we've left our many differences at the door and jumped in together to discuss the problems around us and to share a vision for moving forward. The students brought multiple issues to light, but one thing was clear. We have, as Lincoln said, much unfinished work. And we must resolve to continue the effort to finish it, whatever it takes. As the celebrated author James Baldwin put it, there is never a time in the future in which we will work out our salvation. The challenge is in the moment. The time is always now. It is always now that must concern us in full awareness of the past. We remember all of those who have died in the struggle for freedom, and we speak for and with them in the now to carry their work forward, to champion the meaning of their life and death. We do this in search of what former President Obama recently called our common story. It is the creation of that story that represents our unfinished work. It is only when we can tell this story that we will triumph. This is the story the workshop students worked hard to tell, together. They spoke of joy and pain, fear and anger, but most importantly, of resilience. These are their words.
will set you free, but first it will piss you off, is not to be taken lightly. Every activist who has empowered or inspired caused disruption in this hierarchy. This hierarchy of race, sex, money, check all that may apply. The biggest barrier to true change has always been comfortability in the times. Martin Luther King Jr. caused disruption by putting northern states on trial. They were so used to bashing the South that they themselves were in denial of their own racism, anti-blackness, and police brutality. The L in liberalism didn't fully stand for pro-black liberty. Today we still see the same racial tensions that exist because society became congenial to the idea that it was fixed. It is easy to become complacent in our current circumstances, to grow numb at the dull sense that there are no chances, to create and foster change in this world where problems always seem to persist, but no revolution was created with complacency accompanying it. Our right to challenge the structure of lives that have overstayed their due, the ones that push bleaching cream to dark-skinned queens to alter unpleasant hues, the ones that uphold the 1%ers because they just worked harder, but tell the young mother working 3 jobs to be smarter. We place weights on people's wings, then ask why they can't fly. Our right to protest against the ill treatment of the marginalized, due to ethnicity or class, shape or tribe. Our right to bring attention to their stifled cries, to set ablaze the rage of the indignation found inside. Our right about the scorn, the rejected, the despised. Our right about the issues corrupt governments try to hide. Our right about the band-aid slapped on deep lacerations. Our right about the unhealed scars disregarded in these nations. Our right to offend, our never right to appease. Our cause uneasiness in the hearts of those who read. The truth frees us from the shackles of our own serenity. So our right.